Folks, welcome back to Jerome Bee Farm and Homestead. So today it's a cool, dreary day. It's overcast. It rained all night. Bees aren't flying. Just put on 5 honey supers. I need to get honey supers on the rest of my hives, but I am not going to mess with them in this weather. That would just be asking for trouble. So what I am going to do right now is I'm going to check out a couple of my weak hives that we've been nursing through winter, feeding them and all of that, combining them and doing some things. So that's hive number 5, which was a overwintered double nuke, and they are in a single deep tent frame now. They got a feeder on top of them. I'm just going to check on them. If I find that queen, I might mark her if she's not marked, and I'll mark her green for last year's queen. And I'm also going to get in hive 17 and check on that. It's in a double deep. It started into winter in a double deep. It was had honey in it, and I did have a feeder on it because it was about medium heavy, but they really don't need to be in a double deep right now. So I'm going to go ahead and take them down to a single deep and let them get expanding in there, and when they're ready, I'll go ahead and put a double deep on top of them. So let's get into them and see what they look like. Okay, let's get into this hive number 5 first. So this deep box here is empty. It's just up there for a feeder, so the other bees don't rob it. Show you what we've got here. Okay, so the bees are taking in that syrup there. Looks like there's a little bit left. Yeah, level is to right there. Man, this little hive is even angry. So they got a pollen patty in there they're working on, and some sugar. So that's the second quart I put on them, and they've slowed down a little bit. The first one they took real fast. So you see some wax moth damage there on that box. So that's what wax moths will do to your box when they infest a hive. They'll dig into that wood, but that's not from this hive. That's just left over from before. So since I got all this stuff on here and it's cold and dreary, I'm not going to pull all that off and mess with these bees. I can see they're doing well. They've got food, and they'll start expanding out into these other frames as soon as the nectar flow kicks in. When the nectar flow kicks in, they'll stop feeding on that feed and that sugar, and I'll just take it out of there. So I doubt they will finish all that. So let's get them buttoned back up, and we'll go check on number 17 over there. So this is hive 17. 18 we checked on when we worked on hive number 3 the other day when it ate me up. So we haven't looked in this one for 3 weeks. It's got a frame feeder in there, and I put some straw in it so they wouldn't drown. So, and that has worked. It worked in the one next to it right here. So we'll see how this one is doing. So underneath this is a feeder shim, and it's got sugar in there. So there's quite a few bees up in here, and they're festooning a little bit. And usually when they're doing that, they're preparing to make some comb. And we sure don't want them to make comb up there. Okay, let's get in here and see what we find. These bees here are a little grumpy too, so I may opt just to call this whole thing and call it a day. My smoker's not putting out a whole lot of smoke. Oh my goodness. Just look at all those bees. Man, I hate to mess with them when they're doing that. I really need to shake these into the hive. Let me get that feeder off. And I'll shake those down in there. Get them to go down in. Looks like our feeder's doing okay. The straw's floated on down to the bottom, sank to the bottom as they've consumed it. I don't see any dead bees in there at all. See the straw floating on top of the sugar. And no drowned bees. Or not sugar, syrup. Okay, let's get in here and see if we can find that queen. When that propolis is cool, these are hard to get out, especially when they're tight like that. So there's a little bit of honey left over from winter. There is nectar and pollen, mostly. A little bit of capped honey out here on the edge right here. A lot of bee bread, so a lot of that nectar is probably from the sugar water that was in that feeder. And I'm looking down into the bottom box and I can see quite a few bees on the frames down there. So I'm hesitant to reduce this down to a single box, especially since it's cold and rainy and the bees are a little grumpy. So here's our queen. She's already marked green. There she is right there. She's a last year queen and she was a supercedure queen, which those typically aren't the longest and best queens. So you can see she's got lots of brood here. Uncapped larva and capped brood. So I'm assuming the next frames over are the same thing, and I can look in here and I can see them. So I'm not going to disturb them anymore. They're getting really agitated and up in my face. So not going to mess with them any more than we need to. And there's a little bit of sugar water still down in there. Yeah, if I was to try and reduce this and start going through these frames, in this weather, the temperament of these bees, that would not be a good thing. Might be an entertaining video, but it would be no fun for me. This might be a little hard to get down in there. Part of the reason it's so tight is because I've got this feeder here pushing against it. Man, that's a tight fit. Okay. So there's nothing like having bees on your veil with their butt jammed in the screen, buzzing, trying to sting your face. There's like 4 or 5 of them here. So when they're doing that, it's probably a good idea not to go any further. So that's a sign of angry bees when they don't want to leave the hive, but they all come out on the front and see what's going on and look for something to attack. So you can see the other ones, that's what they look like. They're chilled and pissed off. So it's a short one today, and it didn't make sense to go on with my original plan. I wanted to reduce this down, but actually it looked like there's quite a good population in the bottom, but you can't really tell a lot of times just looking from the top. You'd have to pull the frames and see what's on them. But we'll do that next time when we got better weather and the bees are out flying around. The plum trees are blooming now, man. They smell really good. So as soon as it clears out up and the sun comes out, the bees will be all up in those plum trees, and they'll be making a lot of honey here in a short amount of time. So that's it for this video. Give me a thumbs up if you would. Go away. And don't forget to subscribe on your way out. We'll catch you on the next one. Take care.